Welcome back to the Intercourse Show. I'm your host, Mr. B. Today we have a very exciting show for you. We are discussing the latest developments in the Iran war. For those who haven't been following along, Donald Trump gave Iran a deadline. I believe it was a 48-hour deadline over the weekend where he had made some harsh statements threatening to obliterate their country if they don't come to the table and negotiate. And he is threatening to strike their major infrastructure that a lot of the civilians rely on. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know when this deadline is up, but this marks another point of escalation in this war. I have been following along. Again, it's tough to know which publications to trust because AI generates a lot of fake news these days, and it's hard to determine what's real and what's not. We have relied on First Post over here at the Intercourse Show, which is an Indian-based news publication that tends to get the facts right for the most part. So that being said, we'll go to them to get the latest updates, and I'll go ahead and share that with you.
The entire country can be taken out in one night.
The clock is ticking. Donald Trump's deadline for Iran is almost up. The deadline is 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday. That would be 5:30 a.m. Wednesday in India. He wants Tehran to open the jugular vein of the global economy. It's the Strait of Hormuz. About 20% of the world's oil flows through this waterway. Iran's stranglehold has sent global oil prices rising. So Trump wants Iran to open it or else. He says Iran will face massive U.S. strikes on its infrastructure and looks like he's already laying the groundwork. Karg Island came under attack. Strikes have reportedly hit a key Iranian oil export terminal here. Other critical infrastructure has also been struck. Bridges, railway tracks. And these are not remote locations. One bridge was located in the Iranian city of Qom. This is the second most sacred city in Iran. It is considered the religious capital of Iran. The strike in Qom came hours before Trump's deadline. Remember, Trump has already warned about targeting bridges, so his threat isn't hypothetical anymore. It's being tested in real time. Then comes Mashhad. This is a city in northwestern Iran. Train services in and out of the city have been suspended, not due to damage, but due to warnings. Israel has asked Iranians to avoid railways, so officials might be anticipating an attack. Remember, these are the very sites Trump has threatened to devastate. Targets mentioned in Trump's warnings, they're all being hit. On the outskirts, in the major cities, and in the capital. And his rhetoric has been extraordinary. A few hours ago, here's what he said, and I'm quoting here. A whole civilization.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI.
Trump's first ultimatum. On 21st March, Trump threatened to obliterate Iran's power plants within 48 hours. Later, he said no strikes would come until the 28th of March. 2 days later, he extended that deadline again, said talks with Iran were productive. Iran denied any such talks had taken place. He extended that deadline, this time by 10 days to the 6th of April. On Sunday, in a cryptic post, Trump wrote, I'm quoting again, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Then yesterday, he said the Tuesday deadline was final and that Iran can be taken out in one night.
The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night. We have a plan, because of the power of our military, where every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition by 12 o'clock.
So whether Trump pulls the trigger this time or the carousel spins again, nobody knows. But this one feels consequential, and there are clear signs. But it's not just Trump. Listen to what his deputy has to say.
The ball is in the Iranians' court. Now, I think the president has talked about this. One thing I will say is that the Iranians were not the fastest negotiators before the war started, and they are certainly not the fastest negotiators now. So we recognize there's some delay sometimes in transmitting messages from one person to another, but we feel confident that we can get a response, whether it's positive or negative. We're going to get a response from the Iranians by 8 o'clock tonight.
Now, that was U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. He says military objectives have largely been met, but there's still room for negotiations before the deadline. Now, what's Tehran doing amidst all of this? Everything but backing down. Tehran is calling on its youth to step in. Young Iranians are being asked to form human chains around power plants, and it is being organized nationwide. Students, athletes, artists, everyone is being asked to gather to shield these plants. Iran is also refusing to open the Strait of Hormuz. They are threatening to deprive the United States and allies of oil and gas. 2 LNG tankers were attempting to cross the Hormuz Strait, but they turned back mid-route. These were the first loaded LNG carriers to exit the Gulf, but they did not make it. Saudi Arabia faced a missile barrage. It activated its air defenses, and 7 ballistic missiles were intercepted mid-air. Overnight, a major industrial hub was hit. Explosions were heard, and a fire broke out at a petrochemical facility. This is not a minor site. Jebel is one of the largest industrial zones in the world. It produces fuels, chemicals, and fertilizers. A key bridge linking Saudi and Bahrain was also temporarily shut. This war has been on for over a month. Iran has rejected ceasefire proposals, and here we are on the brink of a deadline where the strikes have begun. The warning signs are getting louder, and the moment Trump called final appears to be upon us. But it does appear that the war in West Asia is now entering a new phase, not just on the battlefield, but also at the negotiating table. Like I said, Iran has rejected a ceasefire proposal with the United States. This plan was put forth through mediators. In this case, Pakistan. We told you about that plan on the show, but Tehran has said no to it. Instead, Iran has presented its own terms, a 10-point plan to end this war. Let me tell you what Iran is asking for. First, it does not want a temporary ceasefire. It wants a permanent end to this war. Secondly, Iran wants guarantees. Of what kind? That it will not be attacked again by the United States or Israel. Third, it is also demanding a lift of all sanctions that have crippled its economy. Iran is asking for an end to Israeli strikes in Lebanon. This is particularly on Hezbollah, which is Iran's proxy in the country. What's more, Tehran has also asked for an end to all regional fighting against its other allies. But what is Iran offering in return? Reports say Iran will open the Strait of Hormuz. By now, I'm sure you know what this waterway is. It's a key shipping route through which 1/5 of global oil passes. Tehran says it will reopen this narrow waterway, but there are conditions applied to it. Iran wants to reportedly regulate traffic on this waterway, and it wants to charge a fee. Remember the toll that I told you about? Now, how much is that fee? Around $2 million a ship. In fact, Tehran says this fee would be split with Oman, which sits across the strait. And the money will be used in rebuilding the damaged infrastructure in this war. So this is what Iran is offering. And this proposal has already reached Washington. President Trump has confirmed it himself. Listen to this.
I've seen every proposal you can imagine. They've made a proposal, and it's a significant proposal. It's a significant step. It's not good enough, but it's a very significant step.
A significant step which is not good enough. That is Donald Trump's position. At this point, I don't know what sort of a proposal would actually make him happy. But look at the timing. Trump has set a deadline that ends later today. Like I said, it is for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, failing which he has warned of large-scale strikes on Iran's critical civilian infrastructure.
They have till tomorrow. Now we'll see what happens. I can tell you they're negotiating, we think, in good faith. We're going to find out. We're getting the help of some incredible countries that want this to be ended because it affects them also. A lot of
I want to weigh in here. Donald Trump said that they're negotiating with Iran, but I think that's kind of hard to do given the fact that you've killed most of their leaders. So I think there's a part of it where there's a lot of distrust. Also, there's the fact that every time Iran came to the table to negotiate with the U.S., we almost sucker punched them every single time, 2 times over. The first time they were negotiating, that started the 12-day war a year or so ago. The second time they're negotiating, that started this major regional conflict that we're presently in. And now you're asking them to come to the table to negotiate again. That does not seem as if anyone would, in good faith, come to the table, because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me a third time, at this point, is just shameful. I don't think the Iranians trust Trump in his negotiation style. So the way that this is being painted is one where there isn't really a way out. And again, I talked about what happens when you push somebody to a corner where they don't have an outlet. I don't know what Iran's outlet is here with the United States. If they don't fight, obviously you're going to try to install new leaders and change their system and their way of doing things, and they don't want to change how they do things. If they fight for their dignity, you're going to continue to pulverize them and to, essentially wipe them off the face of the earth. What exactly do you want these folks to do? Like, what would we do if the circumstances were changed? This is where I think Trump is kind of framing the situation the wrong way. If we're really serious about establishing some sort of peace and stopping the war, we should stop bombing them and fighting them as a sign that, hey, we're serious. We don't want to continue this escalation, and we want to de-escalate the matter so that we can actually have conversation. If you're literally bombing them as you fight, you're blowing bridges, you're demolishing their sacred monuments, you're destroying their cities, these people are backed in a corner. What do you expect them to do? So it's likely that this will continue to escalate because the key elements that needs to be there are not actually there. And it's unfortunate that Trump is choosing to negotiate this way, because it paints him and the United States in a bad light. It almost says this guy's not doing things in good faith, given the way that he's going about things. You're not giving the person a chance. It's like you have your foot on somebody's neck and you're telling them to stop fighting you, but they're literally fighting to live, right? Maybe you need to take your foot off their neck if you don't want them to stop fighting, because they're just, what anyone would do, they would fight for survival. And it's unfortunate because I don't want to view Donald Trump as a person who's heartless. But it does seem like, in a way, this is a heartless way to approach the situation. You're pulverizing these people, you're killing them, but at the same time, you're telling them to surrender, of which you plan to change their way of doing things. And I don't think it's gone the way that the U.S. thought it would go. These people are not, going to uprise against their government. If anything, they're becoming more sympathetic to their government. As you blow up their bridges, and you're going to blow up their infrastructure, who's going to see you in a positive light as the country who's trying to rescue them? I just don't understand the thinking. And maybe it's obvious to me and obvious to no one else, but it doesn't seem like these are fair negotiation terms. So it's likely that the problem will continue to escalate, which means that we as the United States citizens will, and people who live here will suffer the consequences along with the rest of the world, which is high prices for everything, obviously a bad reputation. And I just think even every American as they travel has to now be mindful that, they could potentially be a target because of the way our leaders have been conducting themselves in this war. So it's just disheartening to see that this is how the negotiations are going. But, we can still be optimistic that cooler heads prevail and things change. All right, let's continue.
People are affected by this, but we're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And after that, they're going to have no bridges. They're going to have no power plants.
So the clock is ticking, but Iran is not budging from its position.
Our goal is to protect national interests and security, demands and red lines. And now our position is very clear.
To understand this deadlock, look at what was offered earlier. The mediators had proposed an immediate ceasefire. This would be followed by talks and a broader agreement within weeks. But Tehran rejected it, saying it does not offer long-term guarantees.
Based on our own interests and considerations, we have consistently set out the full range of demands we have had and continue to have. Look, we are not ashamed to voice our legitimate and reasonable demands. The fact that, in response to a proposal, the Islamic Republic of Iran clearly and courageously presents its own views should in no way be interpreted as a sign of backing down in the face of the enemy.
And there is more. Even the United States has put forth a plan. It is known as the 15-point proposal. This plan sets what Washington wants from Tehran. It calls for the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz without any conditions. It demands limits on Iran's nuclear program and to accept terms that go well beyond just ending the war. But that too is not acceptable for Iran.
A few days ago, through intermediaries, proposals were put forward which became known as the 15-point American Plan, conveyed via Pakistan and some other friendly countries. At that time, we also announced that such proposals are both excessively demanding and unreasonable and illogical.
So what you're seeing right now is not just a negotiation, it's a standoff. Iran is asking for guarantees and sanctions relief. The United States is pushing for concessions and control. The problem is clear. Both sides believe they have leverage. And when both sides hold that view, compromise becomes hard.
Are you driving way less than you used to? Do you have a clean driving record? Are you over 25? Do you not have a
Those positions do not meet, at least not easily. So even as proposals continue, the gap between them remains wide. And for now, a breakthrough still looks distant.
Media company that released it, and we're going to say national security, give it up or go to jail. How many men did you send altogether, approximately?
I'd love to keep that a secret.
I'll keep it a secret, but it was hundreds. That's pretty good. Is he central casting? Hundreds of people could have been killed.
Okay. So the latest or the next story is going to speak about some leaks that's been happening within the White House. Now, for those who may not know, from various publications, there are a rift between the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and some of his generals. There are a lot of high-ranking generals who've walked away from their posts simply because they don't agree with certain orders that may have been given, and they, in good conscience, couldn't follow through with it. And it seems as if, as a result of that, there are leaks that's starting to come out. Now, for a lot of people who don't understand, that was a major problem that Trump had in his first term where a lot of leaks was coming out, really from people who wanted to undermine his term. And I think he, up until this point, hadn't had much issue with that. But I suspect that it will continue to happen because there are a group of people that don't necessarily want to see Donald Trump succeed. And now that he is doing something that's giving them ammunition, something that they may not agree with, i.e. this war, there are probably going to be a lot more leaks to come as a means of staining him. Now, where this is different is that it seems like Trump is going to take a very heavy hand in prosecuting those people who are leaking stuff. Because again, he's going to argue that lives are at stake and people could die as a result of it. So that being said, he kind of spoke about it at his press conference yesterday, but it is a major issue coming down the pike.
Ever heard of the Leaky Cauldron? It's not just a fictional pub from Harry Potter's world. It's the reality of Washington, D.C. Everything leaks there. War plans, diplomatic back channels, sensitive deals, it doesn't matter. No information is safe in the U.S. Capitol. And Donald Trump has a problem with that. Yesterday, he trained his guns on anonymous sources who leaked the pilot rescue story.
We didn't talk about the first one for an hour. Then somebody leaked something, which we'll hopefully find that leaker. We're looking very hard to find that leaker. And talked about there's somebody missing. They basically said that we have one and there's somebody missing. Well, they didn't know there was somebody missing until this leaker gave the information. So whoever it was, we think we'll be able to find it out because we're going to go to the media company that released it and we're going to say, national security, give it up or go to jail.
It's not a new complaint. Trump has repeatedly railed against leaks. And fair enough, if the president wants to preserve secrecy, that's his prerogative. But do you know what the problem here is? Trump himself doesn't live up to that. In fact, he is the biggest leak in DC, an oblivious, rambling leak. Just look at what happened yesterday. Trump was listing out details of the rescue operation. At one point, he turned to his top military advisor, General Dan Kane. He asked him point blank, how many men did we send into Iran?
How many men did you send altogether, approximately, for the operation?
I'd love to keep that a secret.
Okay, well, but I will tell you the number. I'll keep it a secret, but it was hundreds and hundreds of these people. It's pretty good.
Just to recap, the general wanted to keep it a secret, but Trump revealed that hundreds of soldiers were sent in. And this wasn't a one-off. Let me take you back to 2019. Trump posted the satellite image of Iran's space center. It shows a launch site in the aftermath of an accident. Notice the clarity of that picture? Experts say it was most likely military grade and classified, meaning Trump wasn't supposed to post it. Here's another example from 2017. Trump was hosting Russian officials at the White House. He ended up revealing highly classified information to them. This information had been provided by an ally in West Asia. The ally had categorically asked the United States to not share this information. Yet, Trump did so. He later said he had the right to share it. I have another example from the same year, 2017. Trump was in the middle of one of his late-night Twitter storms. He attacked the Washington Post over their reports in Syria. The Post reported that Trump had ended the CIA's covert project in Syria, a project that the US never acknowledged. But look at Trump's tweet here. I'm quoting, "The Amazon Washington fabricated the facts on my ending massive, dangerous, and wasteful payments to Syrian rebels fighting Assad." So Trump unwittingly confirmed the project. Here's another incident. Trump had a conversation with the president of the Philippines. He told him that the United States had 2 nuclear submarines off the Korean Peninsula. Again, this is a total violation. These deployments were supposed to be covert. Yet Trump boasted about it to his counterparts. Even after he left office, nothing really changed. Trump took a lot of classified documents to Mar-a-Lago. Dozens of files were found in his bedroom. And he knew it was wrong. In 2021, Trump admitted that he retained classified information. He discussed Iran war plans with a couple of biographers. Yet this man is complaining about leaks. Even in his second term, we're seeing the same trend. Trump simply cannot help himself. Consider what happened in late January. Trump was hosting CEOs of American oil companies. He was encouraging them to invest in Venezuela. At one point, Secretary of State Marco Rubio handed him a note. And what did he do? He read it out for everyone to hear.
I think really very well. Marco just gave me a note. Go back to Chevron. They want to discuss something. Go ahead. I'm going back to Chevron, Marco. Thank you, Marco.
Did you see his face there? Like I said, he can't keep to himself. Just look at what happened this week. Trump once again revealed information that he was not supposed to. He confirmed that the United States had armed Iranian protesters in January. Remember, the unrest was billed as an internal rebellion. But Trump admitted there was foreign help.
Friends, that if they protest, like the wrestler and his friends, if they protest, they will be shot immediately. And that's an edict, that's in writing. If they protest, if they go out in the streets, they will be immediately shot. They don't have guns. You know, we sent some guns, but the group that was supposed to give, which I said would happen to my people, I said it, I called it exactly. We sent guns, a lot of guns. They were supposed to go to the people so they could fight back against these thugs. You know what happened? The people that they sent them to kept them because they said, what a beautiful gun.
Now to the big question, are there no consequences? As President Trump has wide-ranging powers to declassify documents, so legally there is nothing to be done. But look at the double standard.
That is definitely true. There is a double standard. I can't really believe that the president said that out loud. You know, on one hand, he's saying there is no regime change taking place. But then on the other hand, you're openly admitting in an interview that you sent guns to the people uprising against that government so that they could take up arms and fight their government. If you are arming them to fight their government, in a way, you're encouraging them to overthrow that government, which makes it appeal as if you are supporting the regime change that you supposedly didn't want to take place. Now, in this case, I mean, I think Trump is pretty direct in that they didn't like the Ayatollah, they took him out. So clearly, and he had been talking about placing somebody in a position of leadership there. But you got to understand the rest of the world is probably going to get nervous by that, especially other countries who are nuclear armed, like North Korea or countries like Russia. There's a reason why Russia don't want NATO anywhere close to their borders, because they understand the tactics that are often used by Western powers, which is this notion that the moment they don't personally like you, it means that there's a target and they're going to be arming your opposition to overthrow you, or they'll do more direct things to undermine the stability of your country. And that is not a good look for the United States to openly admit that. Now, for what it's worth, you got to give Trump credit. He's a pretty honest guy when it comes to these type of things, that he'll just say it. Like, he'll say, hey, if we're going to fight a war and it's going to cost us all this money, we're going to take the oil. I mean, that's honest enough that you have to give the guy some credit for it. At the same time, in him saying that, it makes it seem as if the United States is greedy and is only going after people's natural resources because we're stronger than them, so we'll just take it. And it does set a precedence that if you're bigger and if you have a stronger military and you want something, you can take it. Again, I don't know how that's going to sit with the rest of the world, especially those with a lot of resources. They may start to feel a bit threatened, and now that might push for a lot of people to be nuclear armed, as a means of defending and protecting themselves because of this fear that exists that some other country might decide to come and take what's yours. Now, this fact existed a long time. Trump is not the one to bring it in, to usher it in. It's been here since forever. The question is, has anyone been so openly direct with saying it out loud? And I think Trump holds the record for that. He'll tell you, hey, you got something we want, we'll come take it. But in this case, in a way, he is kind of, in a way, bragging about, you know, the capabilities of the United States military. He's speaking to it boastfully, but he doesn't realize that in a way, while he's bragging and kind of, you know, giving these guys their just due, he's also revealing maybe internal things that he shouldn't be revealing. Hate it or love it, that's Trump.
Trump is threatening to jail journalists who report what sources tell them. Meanwhile, he himself is the fountain of leaks. Remember what happened during the Houthi operation? Trump officials mistakenly added a journalist to their Signal chat. They revealed war plans, targets, dates. Where was this outrage then? The fact is, Trump doesn't have a case here. Leaks have been a long-standing tradition in US media. You can agree or disagree with the idea, but you cannot deny one thing. These sources act as a checks and balance system. Without them, the US military would have no curbs. So here's my message to Trump. If you want to plug leaks, start with yourself. Better yet, start with the document you promised to reveal, the Epstein files. US President Donald Trump has made a remark that could change how this war is seen. He said the winner deserves the spoils, and the spoil he has in mind is oil, Iran's oil. This is not just a comment. It offers a glimpse into how he sees the war, not just as a military conflict, but as something that can bring economic gain. And this thinking is not new. Earlier this year in Venezuela, after US forces captured former President Nicolas Maduro, Trump said America should benefit from the country's oil. Now he's saying the same for Iran. So is this war really about security? Or is it also about control over Iran's oil? Our next report explores.
For decades, conflicts in West Asia have carried a deeper undercurrent. Not just about security, not just about borders, but about control over energy and resources. And now, Donald.
Here's what Virginia homeowners are saying about
Relating conflict with Iran. Trump has floated a striking possibility that the United States could take control of Iranian oil.
You said earlier today during the egg roll that you would like to take Iran's oil, but Americans want U.S. forces home.
Correct.
What's that trade-off?
If I had my choice, yeah, because I'm a businessman first.
War in this framing is not just about defeating an adversary. It is about what comes after. And for Trump, what comes after includes economic gain tied directly to resources.
Okay, you know that. To the winner belong the spoils, go the spoils. And I've said, why don't we use it? To the victor go the spoils. And we don't have that. We haven't had that in this country probably in 100 years.
So his message is clear. But step back and a pattern begins to emerge. In Venezuela, US engagement has increasingly centered on oil production and access in recent months. In January, shortly after capturing President Nicolas Maduro, Trump said Washington would take control of the vast oil reserves. He even called on US companies to invest in the South American country.
And we're going to be working with Venezuela. We're going to be making the decision as to which oil companies are going to go in, that we're going to allow to go in. Going to cut a deal with the companies.
But it is not just Venezuela. Trump has also been after Greenland, not just for the territory, but for its untapped resources and strategic value.
We want Greenland.
So different regions, but the same underlying focus, access to resources that can shape power. And few countries hold as much of it as Iran. The country possesses around 157 billion barrels of proven oil reserves. That is close to 12% of the global total. Iran produces roughly 3.3 million barrels per day and is the 9th largest oil producer globally. These are not just statistics, they explain the stakes. Control over that scale of oil supply can influence global markets. It can shape prices. And it can create leverage over major importers, including China. But US interest in Iranian oil goes back further than this conflict. In 1953, when Iran's then Prime Minister tried to nationalize the oil industry, the United States and Britain backed a coup that restored the Shah. The operation, known as Operation Ajax, marked a turning point in the two countries' relationship, and it showed how central oil was to strategic decisions at the time. That history still echoes today. Yet the implications of any such move are significant. It could intensify a conflict that has already stretched into its 6th week. But this is not just a military confrontation anymore. It is also a contest over who shapes the global energy order. And for the United States, as history repeatedly shows, oil has often been at the center of that calculation.
It's a huge moment in India's nuclear journey, one that takes us closer to energy independence. India's new homegrown reactor has attained criticality. The next stop, a fully operational facility, one that can produce 500 megawatts of electricity. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has hailed this achievement. He called it a defining moment in India's civil nuclear journey. A proud day for the country and its scientists. But what is so special about this milestone? How does it help India achieve energy independence? Let's take a closer look. It's a reactor called the PFBR, the prototype fast breeder reactor. It's located inside the nuclear facility in Kalpakkam. This is a city in the southern Indian state of Tamil Nadu, just 70 kilometers south of the capital, Chennai. Now, this isn't your normal nuclear reactor. It's a breeder, meaning it produces more fuel than it consumes. How? Let's put on our science caps. The starting point here is nuclear fission. First, you split an atom, uranium or plutonium. This process creates considerable amount of heat. Next, you use this heat to boil water and it creates steam. Then this steam is used to turn massive turbines. And finally, when turbines spin, they create electricity. In a nutshell, this is how it works. But breeder reactors work slightly differently. Most of them use plutonium-239 as the fuel. They also have a blanket of uranium-238 around the core. This uranium by itself is not fissile, but we'll come to that later. While traditional reactors use water as coolant, breeders do not. They use liquid metals like sodium and lead. Why? Water slows down the split atoms, but liquid metals ensure they remain fast. These fast particles will slam into the uranium-238 blanket, thus creating plutonium-239, the fuel that we started with. This is why this reactor is called a breeder. It creates more fuel than it uses. Right now, India has attained criticality in this particular reactor. Basically, it is now self-sustaining. It can keep splitting atoms without stopping. And this is the second stage in India's grand nuclear strategy. Our playbook was started by Homi Bhabha in 1950s, the father of India's nuclear program. Stage 1 is heavy water reactors, the conventional kind that you see across the world. Stage 2 is fast breeders, the kind India has just cracked. And stage 3 is advanced systems that can use thorium. Again, I'll come to that in a bit. There are 3 reasons why this fast breeder is such a big deal. Number 1, it's completely made in India. The reactor was designed and constructed at a Bharatiya Nabhikia Vidyut Nigam Limited, a state-run company under the government of India. They began work on this reactor back in 2004. Some 200 Indian companies contributed to this project. And more than 20 years later, it has paid off. Reason number 2, only one other country operates such breeder reactors, and that's Russia. The likes of France and the United States and South Korea began work in the 1970s, but eventually all of them gave up. Some faced cost issues. Others hit technological snags, which brings us to reason number 3, the thorium angle. Thorium is a radioactive element like uranium or plutonium. The difference? India has plenty of thorium. By plenty, I mean one of the largest deposits in the world, between 450 and 500,000 tons. You can find deposits on the beaches of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and Odisha. If you can use thorium, you don't have to import uranium. Just one problem though, thorium isn't fissile. Enter the fast breeders. Remember that blanket of uranium-238? In the later stages, you can replace that with a blanket of thorium. When the fast particles hit this blanket, you get fissile uranium-233. And this uranium is nuclear fuel. That's the end goal. To create thorium-based nuclear power facilities, if you look at the world around us, it's clear why this is necessary. One war has choked our energy supply, so energy independence is more important than ever. Unfortunately, India isn't blessed with a lot of oil or gas, which is why nuclear energy is so important. And the target is lofty. India wants 100 gigawatts of nuclear capacity by 2047. By then, our power demand is expected to be 708 gigawatts. Like I said, lofty but necessary. For a country of 1.4 billion people, energy independence is non-negotiable. And this nuclear breakthrough is a big step in that direction. A big congratulations to all our scientists and engineers who've made this possible.
There you have it. India is taking steps to become energy independent. They're one of the ones who will probably hit the hardest by this war. They consume a lot of oil from Iran and other places, Russia, and obviously them and China are both countries that have the biggest populations on the world. So the needs for energy is far more critical when you have more people. And so India is already taking steps to create new sustainable sources of energy that diminishes their reliance on oil. And they seem to have cracked the code and continue to make progress there. So them and Russia are pioneers in that particular technology. So kudos to them. Shout out to them for that. Apparently, we're trying to do something similar, but haven't quite accomplished it, at least to our knowledge to right now. But, you know, countries do have a desire to be energy independent. And I also believe that's one of the reasons why Iran is trying to, you know, do things with uranium, is that they want to use the uranium for energy, not so much for a nuclear warhead, but they want to be able to rely on their energy through the nuclear power. And they obviously have the know-how, but there are certain people that feel like they won't stop there. They'll use that technology to pose a threat to their neighbors. So that sort of gives the precursor to why the war is happening in the first place. That is the update that we have for you today. I thank you guys for joining us on today's show. If you're not already a subscribe member, like and subscribe, stay connected. But also weigh in. Let me know what you think about some of the stories that we presented today. Is there anything that you feel like we got wrong? Definitely touch base and weigh in and share your voice. But I would definitely urge that we all keep our leaders in prayer so that they make the right decisions as they navigate, leading and guiding the country. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. And once again, it's Mr. B signing out. Have a blessed day.